Okay, members and friends, it's 11:15 a.m. in the morning. I've been up for about an hour. Obviously, I stay up late, right? And I'm starting third day, right? And I'm going to start a load of laundry. So that means within the next hour and a half, I would have lifted 960 pounds worth of water just to do one load of laundry at this point. And then I'm going to try and get in too, but my back is really sore, and I'm pretty sore right now because I've been doing this for 2 days straight, plus all this, stuff on the porch. Although I'm a little concerned now that I looked underneath the steps again, because those wood chips, I'm thinking that could be, the boards, right? The beams are rotting. That's why they covered everything up when before I moved in, because they wanted to hide the fact that the porch 4 years ago was rotting. So, but, sometimes, and I've talked about this before, landlords, they don't necessarily like to take responsibility for things, right? They'll say, oh, well, it's your fault because you put that, that shelving up on the porch. Because last year, my landlord's son came through the house. He told me he was going to build me a shed, but he never did, right? Because, he came for rent one time for his mom. And, I said, well, can you do something with the porch, right? Like up on the top, it's leaking. It's driving me nuts. I can't deal with it, right? Oh, how about I just build you a shed and, blah, 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 and, and look at that on the ground. What is that? You're spoiling it. And I'm like, well, that's like, when you have a chair and you put a chair down and, it rains constantly, right? Whatever, it's just discoloration. But I know that what I'm trying to say is they're probably going to try and blame me for the wear and tear of a porch that's been sitting there for God knows how long, 15, 20 years, right? And now that it's coming to the end of its life, right, because of, wear and tear and maybe neglect of the roof, and because that water, it just sits there and it pools. It doesn't drain. And nobody in their right mind is going to go out every day when it rains and start sweeping water off a porch just so that it doesn't trickle down and dribble into the garage, right? And the reason they tarped it up underneath the garage is because people walk through to get to the suite downstairs in the basement. You have to walk through the garage to get to the suite. So if those beams are rotting, well, they're going to have to fix it because people walk through every day, all day long, going in and out. And if they're not doing that, they're coming up and up through the stairs to come upstairs, right? And, that may very well be an argument because, if you don't like it, you can move kind of situation. I've heard that many times. And I'm hoping after, this time living with my landlady for this long, right, she won't treat me that way. She'll say, yeah, you're right, because she's been getting better. Like when, what was it that broke that she came and she fixed just like that? I can't remember. But anyway, same thing like with her daughter. Her one year her daughter came, and this is before the yard was being done, and it was just growing full of weeds in the front, and she looked and she said, oh, that's the worst I've ever seen this rental in terms of yard. Because she was being insulting to me, right? We were kind of arguing about something. Probably the yard. And, and I told her, you go out there and pick that morning glory. You go out there and pick those freaking weeds. Like, why do I have to move into your house and get stuck with, barrels and bushelfuls of bags full of weeds, right? But I've been doing it every year. Last year I spent almost all summer working in the yard. This year I plan on trying to keep up with the pace so that next year the maintenance will be more maintenance versus, trying to tackle the problem in terms of, just a 50 feet by 50 feet worth of sand. I mean, that's a lot of sand to cover up, right? And, the backyard, you've seen how big that backyard, that was full of freaking morning glory. Now it's 3/4 something and a quarter morning glory. So that, there's being accomplishments being made there. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of work for me. And, the landlady's daughter says, oh, well, it's nice that you have time to do yard work. I'm always working. And I'm like, well, what do you think this stuff is? What do you think I'm doing outside? That's working too. And I'm not even working really for my benefit because you know, other than maybe there might be a daycare here one day. You know, maybe I'll live here for another 5 more years and get the pleasure of the yard. I mean, that you can't really predict the future, right? You know, 5, 10 years down the line, 2 years down the line, especially when you're coming into the same kind of conflicts and the same kind of problems, lack of storage. You know, that's a big one for me. You know, again, no cupboards, no shed, no proper garage, no proper storage, no closets. You know, and anything I try and make outside is just makeshift, like that little thing out in the back. I mean, that's easy for homeless people to go in there and root around and do whatever. So again, I'm even reluctant to take my bins and put them out there, because I might have to, because this porch may be toast. And that's another problem, like those backing up pipes. When the pipe backs up because of the way the drainage is, and there's something in the pipe down there way back in the line, you know, 200 feet down the line, and then all of a sudden I can't do my laundry, nobody can do laundry, nobody can do dishes, because all the sinks shut down, all the laundry facility shuts down. And if my landlady leaves it for any length of time, you know, if it's like 9 days later, 15 days later, and it's still not fixed, well, what you gonna do, right? Last time it went, she was good though. She had somebody come like the next day. So my landlady's working with me, and I try not to put a lot of pressure on her in terms of, you know, house repairs. But the porch is a big one. I can't fix a leaky roof, veranda that's rotten stuff. And if the porch itself underneath and the beams are rotten and have been rotting for the last 10 years, and that's why they put the plastic up there, was to hide the fact so that they could get a few more years out of it. Well, when it comes time to fix it, it's going to be a big hassle for me, because I'm going to have to clear everything and put it out in the road and tarp it up. So, you know, in the garage, so they can go from one end to the other end and either run new beams across, or for all I know, they might have to tear down the whole freaking porch. Now, the bright side of it is you get a new porch, which is even better for a daycare, right? So you always look for the bright side on the negative side. At least I do, right? But it's frustrating, because, you know what? I got a social worker coming in. Oh, well, yeah, well, again, you don't work on a nonprofit. You haven't worked on a nonprofit for 13 years. You haven't raised 5 kids. You haven't been a Mama Lynn to 100 kids. You know, you haven't done stuff with the homeless people. You haven't planted gardens. You know, you don't run a household, right? You haven't looked after an old woman that moved into your house for 2.5 years and you basically became her servant. You haven't done that. But yet you can sit there and say that I'm not able to look after my grandson, because he deserves to have more. He deserves to live. Like, my daughter 2 days ago helped me with the video. Like, this social worker is still trying to encourage her to make the decision to have my grandson go up for adoption, or to keep my grandson in a foster care environment where he lives in a more open space, because the woman has a foster child, and maybe the second child is a foster child for all we know. Maybe she fosters 2 children. Maybe the little one isn't hers. Maybe the social worker just put the 2 foster children together, and this one woman's making $4,500 a month off of 2 kids, and that doesn't even include her benefits. And that's on the low scale. As she's milking the system, saying, oh my God, I can't handle these 2 kids. So, you know, let's go take them to some counselor for prescription drugs, so I can dope them up and put them in a corner with a bottle in their mouth and get good money for that, and consider myself to be the epitome of what is right in our society, because I can provide a more open space for this unwanted child. Well, I'm at home here, killing myself, trying to make a home ever since I moved in. You know, trying to learn to communicate with my landlady to show her that, first of all, I'm a hard worker. Yes, I don't get paid for what I do, but I work hard every day, and I do it for a purpose. And that purpose is for something positive, right? And I oftentimes do have when I first moved in, I wanted to start daycare. And the place that I was living at was a 4-plex. I wanted to take the next door on the main floor and turn that into a daycare. But that landlady was nutcase, right? She had the hydro cut off, everything. I think the place had a grow-op in it, so, you know, no daycare there, right? But here, there is possibility that we could have a daycare here. Now, you know, but it really depends on my landlady. You know, is she going to listen to what they preach to her in the temple? Just go back and tell your landlord or your tenant, just go back and tell your tenant that if she doesn't like it, she can move, and therefore you don't have to take responsibility, and you can leave it to the last minute until it finally breaks to fix it? Or are you going to, you know, realize that you do have a good tenant that does try, and, you know, she doesn't get a lot of breaks in life, right, because of, you know, people's opinions of whatever drives them. And, you know, maybe she might like to have her daycare here herself. It'd be profitable, especially if I get a business grant for it and I help to, you know, bring the house up to code, right? We need quality daycare. The more we can get them out of basement suites, the better for the children. The more that we can provide them with open spaced yards with a lot of activities in them, the better for the children, right? Better for the parents. So, you know, that's a good goal, right? To keep in mind, you know. But when you have no resources and you're being worked to death every day for around and around and around and around and around situation where you're not getting very many breaks, right? And people are still abusing you, whether it's social workers or landlords, it doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, I'm stuck holding the bag, right? You know, I'm waiting for my grandson to come home as my children are being psychologically terrorized. You know, I'm working in a yard that I don't know if I have to leave behind tomorrow because my landlady might refuse to fix the porch. And if she refuses to fix the porch, then that means my children are going to be at risk as they're going in and out of the basement. What would you do? If you don't like it, move. You know, how many times do you have to live in a house and worry about stuff like that? So anyway, today is day 3. I'm going to go start laundry. My goal is, well, 3 would be good today, but, you know, I get distracted, right? I can do 1. I'll start the 1 because it's the high point of my energy, even though I'm at about 1/3 of my energy level right now. So I'll do the 1 for sure because the porch is getting, you know, cleared off, right? And I'm going to do a minor assessment of what's underneath there. And I'm praying to God it's not the beams, because if it's the beams, then I'm looking at, well, I'm looking at clearing out the garage anyway. But on the sides of the walls, I have bookshelves that I got tarp on, and then in there I do have like non-profit children stuff that when I go out into the courtyard with the kids, and there's 30, 40, 50, 60 kids or whatever it is, I have enough, you know, I have enough equipment to be able to handle that many children. So, you know, right now it's behind the wall, it's in boxes, it's tarped up, and then all this other stuff is just piled in front, right? And as I said before, it just helps to keep the homeless people out. But all it does is it allows them to go in there and scatter everything around, right? And then people walk by and they say, well, what the hell is this? And I'm like, well, I don't know, you tell me, because last time I put the shit down there, it didn't look like that. So, you know, but if they have to do the beams, then that means the stuff against the walls will actually have to go out. And that's a lot of work, right? But, you know, if that's what it takes to fix the porch, then, you know, I have to talk to my landlady like this. Well, Mrs., you know, this is the thing. It's either I'm going to stay here long term and, you know, I'm going to get it into a routine where, you know, I've got that there and I've got that there, and, you know, and it's not, you know, my 30 feet by 40 feet and is okay to the best of what you can do in a box. But if I'm having to, you know, deal with things that aren't being fixed, that are dangerous, then she can't expect me to live here. And then if she does fix it, you know, I can wing by her. Well, you know, even if I decide to move, because she knows my finances have changed in the house and she's a little concerned. And I told her, don't worry, your rent will always get paid, and the day I say I can't pay it is the day I will let you know. Right? But I'm working towards maintaining. You know, whether I get back into my sewing and I do it that way, or whether I decide to, you know, do daycare. But anyway, I'm just rambling now because I'm tired. I don't really want to start my day. It's going to be another long day, but it's not raining. So, you know, that's what you do. You just get back up on the bandwagon. You don't worry, right? It's going to be okay. You know, I'm pretty impressed with the yard. It's coming along pretty good. So it would be a shame to leave the yard. You know, I know people don't see it as well. You know, it's nice to know that you have time to do it. Well, no, actually, I don't. It takes away a lot from my life. You know, I'm behind on my books. You know, I'm behind. I never get to sew. You know, there's other things I could be doing as well. But there's also rewards, too, because I'm getting little plots of garden patches. And, you know, I'm getting patches of grass. And, you know, we can still have the little cookout there with the fire pit. And, you know, and, yeah, so... I got nice little patios and walkways, and those are always nice to go and be around because they give off a lot of good energy. And so we'll just touch in as I go from spot to spot. Okay? And we'll be back. Okay, members and friends. I don't know. My little greenhouse might be short-lived here with this underneath the porch, right? This might be just a waste of time. You know, that water just keeps pooling. I'm washing the porch here. And it just, that's the problem. Just all pooling all the time, pooling. Okay, members and friends. I only did one load of laundry today. I only lift 960 pounds. That's all I could do. It was kind of a slow day. You know, you're on your feet all day, but it's a slow day, right? Just some days you just don't seem to really accomplish very much because you're doing piddly things, you know, and it doesn't really seem to make an impact. It does, but it doesn't seem that way. So it's 9:35. I started at, what, 12? So that's been like 9.5 hours that I've been kind of just going straight. Managed to wash the porch. You know, I hung up those baskets, and I washed some stuff in the bucket. I washed some old Barbie doll stuff and some old brat, you know, furniture, like, you know, children's, you know, little dolls called brats and Barbie doll furniture and stuff like that back in the day when Tisha was little, right? And I'm debating whether I should keep it because downstairs I have a box full of brats, right, with all the clothes and the shoes and, you know, and the dishes and everything from when Tisha was little. And I'm debating whether I should keep it or not because I don't really have the storage for it, but I'll probably end up keeping it, right? Because, you know, whether I use it for daycare or whether Andre plays with it with his little friend or something like that, I'll just, you know, I washed it today, bleached it, because I had them outside on the porch in a bag, and of course the bag got, you know, ripped open. I had Barbie doll stuff all over, and so it all got washed today. It's drying up, so I'll find a clean box and I'll pack it in there nice. I'll find the other brats downstairs at some point and kind of put them all together, and then I'll label the box and I'll put the box away at some point in the future. So that's basically what I did today. I'm kind of tired, you know. I have my high points and my low points, and obviously for 2 days I was working on the porch really hard. So today was just a slow day. But it was a long day. I'll start again tomorrow. My daughter went and seen this guy, this lawyer, and signed him back on because, you know, she's hoping that he'll listen to her request. But I don't know. This social worker, she uses the court system to her advantage. So, you know, it's not right. It's just, I feel like I live in a communist country, you know, like Russia or China or Ukraine or someplace like that where, you know, people just don't have any rights. And this has put a whole new spin on the title Canada. Right? My grandson's just a pawn for this woman. And now that's not to say that my daughter doesn't need to take some responsibility as to where she's at right now, because I have been helping her for quite a few months. It hasn't been perfect for her. Obviously, she got displaced from her room. You know, Andre has his room, but my daughter doesn't have her own room at this point. But I didn't kick her out. She's been upstairs with me. You know, she's had access to the living room, and, you know, she's had a spot for her clothes and whatnot. But, you know, she's just kind of stuck in with her addiction, and she's supposed to go into rehab tomorrow, so we'll see if she gets there. Apparently the social worker's going to drive her, so we'll see if she gets there. She was here and she took off again, so, you know, she's, who knows what she's doing. So hopefully she'll go tomorrow, and I've got court on Friday, so we'll just carry on tomorrow and see how it goes. All right.